Fables of the Reconstruction, also known as Reconstruction of the Fables, is the third studio album by the American alternative rock band R.E.M., released on I.R.S. Records in 1985. The Joe Boyd-produced album was the only one recorded by the group outside of the United States but is a concept album of Southern Gothic themes and characters. History: despite the growing audience and critical acclaim experienced by the band after its first two albums, Murmur and Reckoning, R.E.M. decided to make noticeable changes to its style of music and recording habits, including a change in producer to Joe Boyd and in recording location to London, England. Boyd was best known for his work with modern English folk musicians, including such acts such as Fairport Convention and Nick Drake. It was still a conceptual record by R.E.M. standards. Lyrically, the album explores the mythology and landscape of the South, and the title and chorus of Can't Get There From Here, the album's first single, is a rural American colloquialism sometimes used in response to a request by travelers for difficult directions. The music and possible meanings: the opening song, Feeling Gravity's Pull, describes falling asleep while reading. Michael Stipe's lyrics also reference surrealist photographer Man Ray, setting the tone for the album. The song was a musical departure for the band, making use of a dark, chromatic guitar figure by Peter Buck, and a string quartet, while R.E.M.'s previous albums had opened with rhythmic, jangly rock songs. Maps and Legends fits the earlier sound and features distinct harmony vocals by bassist Mike Mills, singing different lyrics from Stipe. The song is dedicated to the Reverend Howard Finster, a noted outsider artist whom the band considered to be a man of vision and feeling, a fine example to all. Driver 8 Inches describes the scenery surrounding railroad tracks in somewhat abstract terms. Trains are a frequent motif in rural American music, suggesting the freedom and promise of an escape from one's home environment. Driven by a distinctive guitar riff, Driver 8 was one of the songs on the album to receive college radio play, and the record company also authorized a music video. Beginning with a soft introduction, Life and How to Live It charged through another atmospheric, folk rock arrangement and referenced storytelling. Without mentioning him by name, the song was about Athens, Georgia, author Brivs Megis, as alluded to in the live performance on the And I Feel Fine bonus disc. Much of the band's songwriting material in this era also came from the members' own experiences traveling through the country and near constant tours over the previous several years, as well as an increasing sense of political activism which would find expression on subsequent albums Life's Rich Pageant and Document. Stipe later said that his previous lyrics never really had any literal meanings, and that by this time he had begun to write lyrics that told stories. The song Green Grow the Rushes is a prime example, which contains the line The Amber Waves of Gain, is thought to be about migrant farm laborers and also alludes to the folk song Green Grow the Rushes. Kohoutek referenced the comet Kohoutek, and is perhaps one of the earliest R.E.M. songs about a romantic relationship, using the comet as a simile for a lover who, like Kohoutek, you were gone. The song Auctioneer deviated from the typical R.E.M. sound of the time, with jagged guitar riffs and more references to old rural ways of life. The plaintive Good Advices contains the following Stipe lyric that has been quoted in musical and literary contexts: when you meet a stranger, look at his shoes/keep your money in your shoes. A celebration of an eccentric individual is the subject of Old Man Kenzie, and closing track Wendell G. The latter, a ballad with piano and more harmonies from Berry and Mills, was the album's third and final single in the UK only, although it made no commercial impression there. Release: upon release, Fables of the Reconstruction reached number 28 in the United States and was the band's best showing yet in the UK, peaking at number 35. Recorded during a period of internal strophe largely due to the R.E.M. members' homesickness and an unpleasant London winter the band's unenthusiastic view of the album has been public for years, and is often reflected among fans and the press. Drummer Bill Berry was quoted in the early 1990s as saying that Fables of the Reconstruction sucked. Frontman Michael Stipe once shared the opinion but lately has said he considers it home to some of their more notable songs, telling producer Joe Boyd that he had grown to love the album. Peter Buck, in the liner notes of the 25th Anniversary Deluxe Edition, said, "Over the years, a certain misapprehension about Fables of the Reconstruction has built up. For some reason, people have the impression that the members of R.E.M. don't like the record. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's a personal favorite, and I'm really proud of how strange it is. Nobody but R.E.M. could have made that record." Fables was often characterized by a slow tempo and an intentionally murky sound, in contrast with the more upbeat and jangly sound of earlier R.E.M. material. Nevertheless, the focus on American folk instruments such as the banjo and Wendell G., and a few additional orchestrations began the band's route toward the layered, acoustic-based sound they adopted for their popular breakthrough in the late 80s and early 90s with albums such as Green, Out of Time, and Automatic for the People. Track listing: all songs written by Bill Berry, Peter Buck, Mike Mills and Michael Stipe except as indicated. Side 1 a side, Feeling Gravity's Pull a €448, Maps and Legends a €310, Driver 8 a €323, Life and How to Live It a €406, Old Man Kenzie a €408, Side 2 a Another Side, Can't Get There From Here a €339, Green Grow the Rush is a €346, Cahoutech a €318, Auctioneer a €244, Good Advice is a €330, Wendell G a €301, 1992 I.R.S. Vintage Years Reissue Bonus Tracks, Crazy, B-side of Driver 87 single. Burning Hell, B-side of Can't Get There From Here 12 single. Bandwagon, B-side of Can't Get There From Here 7, and 12 single. Driver 8 Inches, B-side of Wendell G 12 single. Maps and Legends, B-side of The One I Love 7 single. 2010 25th Anniversary Edition Reissue Bonus Tracks, Auctioneer a €252, Bandwagon a €224, Can't Get There From Here a €341, Driver 8 a €331, Feeling Gravity's Pull a €436, Good Advice is a €331, Green Grow the Rush is a €347, Hyena a €253, Cahoutech a €326, Life and How to Live It a €410, Maps and Legends a €312, Old Man Kenzie a €407, Throw Those Trolls Away a €310, Wendell G a €307. On the vinyl and cassette releases, Side 1 was labeled the A-side, and Side 2 another side. The A-side label bore the title Fables of the Reconstruction, while another side bore the title Reconstruction of the Fables. The front cover of all releases showed the words Fables of the, while the back cover reads Reconstruction of the. The CD label has the title simply as Fables of the Reconstruction, while both spines are labeled Reconstruction of the Fables. The ambiguous title makes possible reference to both the Reconstruction era of the United States and the literary process of deconstruction. Also, the liner notes list a song titled, When I Was Young as among the track listing, but it does not appear on the album. The song was played live several times during the 1985 Reconstruction U.S. College Tour, but it was quickly dropped. However, the song was reworked into I Believe, released on the following album Life's Rich Pageant. A demo version of When I Was Young appears as Throw Those Trolls Away on the 25th Anniversary Edition of Fables, released July 13, 2010. The CD text information on the disc, however, still identifies the song's title as When I Was Young. Personnel: R.E.M., Bill Berry drums, backing vocals, Peter Buck guitar, banjo, harmonica, Mike Mills bass guitar, backing vocals, piano, Michael Stipe lead vocals, additional musicians, David Battelli tenor and baritone saxophone on Can't Get There From Here, Camilla Brunt violin on Feeling Gravity's Pull, Jim Dvorak trumpet on Can't Get There From Here, Philippa Ibbotson violin on Feeling Gravity's Pull, David Nubel cello on Feeling Gravity's Pull, Peter Thomas tenor saxophone on Can't Get There From Here. Production: Joe Boyd Production: Barry Compson engineering, Tony Harris engineering, M.K. Johnston photography and art. Release history: I.R.S. Vintage Years Edition, with bonus tracks. a Euro 25th Anniversary Edition, with bonus disc. Chart performance, album, singles. Certifications. References. External links, R.E.M. HQ on Fables of the Reconstruction, Fables of the Reconstruction at AllMusic, Fables of the Reconstruction at AllMusic, Fables of the Reconstruction at AllMusic. Fables of the Reconstruction at Music Brains.